Welcome back to the Raritan Oratory YouTube channel, where every week we offer a Sunday Gospel reflection. And here's our reflection for the third Sunday of Easter. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. The two disciples recounted what had taken place on the way and how Jesus was made known to them in the breaking of bread. While they were still speaking about this, he stood in their midst and said to them, "Peace be with you." But they were startled and terrified and thought that they were seeing a ghost. Then he said to them, "Why are you troubled? And why do questions arise in your hearts? Look at my hands and my feet, that it is I myself. Touch me and see, because a ghost does not have flesh and bones, as you can see I have." And as he said this, he showed them his hands and his feet. While they were still incredulous for joy and were amazed, he asked them, "Have you anything here to eat?" They gave him a piece of baked fish. He took it and ate it in front of them. He said to them, "These are my words that I spoke to you while I was still with you, that everything written about me in the law of Moses and in the prophets and Psalms must be fulfilled." Then he opened their minds to understand the scriptures. And he said to them, "Thus it is written that the Christ would suffer and rise from the dead on the third day, and that repentance for the forgiveness of sins would be preached in his name to all the nations, beginning from Jerusalem. You are witnesses of these things." The Gospel of the Lord. So this Sunday we pick up with St. Luke's account, and it's right after the disciples come back from Emmaus. So they had encountered Jesus on the way as they were walking to Emmaus, and they had invited him to come stay with them because it was late. He revealed himself to them in the breaking of bread, and then he disappeared. And they immediately went back to Jerusalem to tell everybody what happened. It must have been pretty late at night. It was a journey of 7 miles, so it must have been pretty late when they got there. And they were telling the other disciples what had happened, and then all of a sudden Jesus appears in their midst again. And he sees that they're terrified, that they're troubled. He asks them, "Why are you troubled? And why do questions arise in your hearts?" And I thought, well, he could be talking to us, right? I mean, our hearts are troubled about a lot of things. We have a lot of questions about so many things that are going on in our lives and in the world. And what is his response to it? To come into our midst and say, "Peace be with you. Look, it's me. Like, it's okay, I'm here." And this is the reality, of course, that the disciples now experience, is that in the midst of their struggles, in their questioning, in their doubting, in the challenges that they face, Jesus is alive as he promised, and he's with them, and he's offering them his peace. And so it's okay. And they're able to be joyful in the midst of their fear and their troubles and everything else. And so for us, in the midst of our questions and struggles and problems, we can be joyful because Christ has the last word. His victory over everything that threatens us, and our participation in it, allows us to be joyful and makes us his witnesses then in the world. So, right, this is how he closes. You are witnesses of all these things that have happened. And it's because those first disciples were witnesses of those things that we are here, that the church exists 2,000 years later, is because generation after generation of witnesses shared and handed on the faith. And so I want to share something a little more personal this week because we're filming on Wednesday night, the 14th of April. And it was at this hour 20 years ago today that I was received into the Catholic Church, confirmed and received my first communion at the Easter Vigil in 2001. And so I'm thinking about my own gratitude for the witnesses who inspired and have supported my faith along the way for 20 years. And I realize that I'm very much still on the beginning of the journey of discipleship. But we also have the opportunity to become witnesses for others. And that's part of what we're trying to do with this. And in so many ways, we take advantage of the opportunities that are given to us to be witnesses for others. So I hope that you can do that too, and that we all become witnesses to the world of the victory of Christ over sin and death that brings joy, that brings freedom, that brings new life.